All right. So first, let's start talking about what RPR is. So RPR, as I mentioned, stands for Realtors Property Resource. It is a member benefit for you from the National Association of Realtors. It's 100% owned by the National Association of Realtors, and that means that it's owned by NAR members, which is you. So you will really own RPR, which is a really great thing because that means they're listening to what you need as a realtor and they're there to help you. That also means that this is not a public tool. None of your clients are going to get onto RPR and tell you, oh, well, RPR said this, or why do you say this when RPR told me something different? So that's really great. There's no public estimate. It's not no public access. It's not like Zillow or Trulia or anything like that. What RPR is a research tool. It has a ton of great information that we're going to show you today that you can get about different properties. It's great for sellers, it's great for buyers, it's great just for general market research. So what it is not a listing syndicator. It's not a nationwide MLS. When RPR first came out a few years ago, some people were thinking that's what it was trying to do. It really is a research tool and there for your benefit. RPR is also parcel-centric, which means if a property exists, it's in RPR. So even if it's never been on the MLS before, never will be on the MLS, it will be in RPR. It also doesn't matter if it's in Scottsdale, if it's in Phoenix, if it's in North Carolina, if it's in Texas, if it's in Colorado. Any property that exists in the United States is in RPR. So that's a great resource for you. You have access to information about all these properties across the United States. So when we get into the live demo of RPR, you're going to hear or you're going to see two different things, the AVM and the RVM. So AVM stands for Automated Valuation Model. These have been around forever. It's what the Zestimate is based on. It's what most mortgage companies use to evaluate their portfolios and make sure that a lot of the homes that they have loans on are underwater, things like that. It's just a really rough estimate of what properties are worth based on publicly available information, like the sold prices of other homes. The RVM is what's unique to RPR. That stands for Realtor Evaluation Model, and it is the most accurate valuation model in the country. It's trademarked and owned by you. It's by the National Association of Realtors. So what the RVM does is it actually takes all that publicly available information, plus it adds on top of that MLS active, sold, and off-market data. So there's a couple of reasons why that MLS data is so important when it comes to evaluating properties. If you could imagine, your typical subdivision, you've got two homes that are exactly the same right next to each other. One goes on the market and they list it for $300,000. A day later they get an offer and it sells for $299,000. Now the house next door is exactly the same, but the seller thinks that their home is a lot better, so they list it for $350,000. And it sits and sits and sits. And then they lower the price to $335,000. And it sits and it sits and it sits. And then they lower the price again to $320,000, and finally someone comes along and they say, I'll give you $300,000 for it. So if you're looking at the public record information, all it says is that there's two identical homes right next door to each other, one sold for $299,000 and one sold for $300,000. But with the MLS data, it tells a different story. It tells you that if you price a home right from the get-go, it'll sell in a day and it'll sell for almost 100% of what you listed it for. But if you list it for way too much, it's going to sit and sit and sit, and nobody's going to pay over $300,000 for it. So having that MLS information is really, really important. Here in the Valley, the RVM is plus or minus 10% of the actual sales price of the property 90+% of the time. So that's really, really accurate. If you think about, 10% may seem like a lot, but think about an average $300,000 home. 10% would be $270,000 to $330,000. You can easily see how based on condition, being remodeled, having a better view, you can see how that swing is there. So it's actually a really, and again, the most accurate valuation model in the country. So let's go ahead and jump right into RPR. So this is RPR that I'm in now. I'm looking at a property. It may be one of your listings. So the first thing you'll see is up here in the left is the list price. this pulls from the MLS. So because you are if you are an Armless subscriber, you get all the MLS data that's just pulled right into RPR. In other areas of the country, if you're not a MLS subscriber to that area, you won't see MLS information, but again, you can still see all the property information. So every property is going to have this right here. It says current RVM. And again, RVM, most accurate valuation model in the country, and you can always hover over the I to get that information. So it has the RVM listed as 236,610. You can see when it was last updated about a month ago. If you click on View Details, you can actually see all of the comparable properties that were used to evaluate the RVM. Sometimes you'll also get off-market properties that are in there. The recently solds go back 9 months. The off-market properties will go back further than that. But the off-market properties are obviously weighted different than the recently sold. The off-market properties are in there basically just to show trends. All right. So going down a little further, you'll see this RVM estimated range. So, and then the RVM confidence. So the more stars, it's basically like standard deviations if you think back to your stat class. So 5 stars means 5 standard deviations. That means it's very, very, very likely within a statistical formula that this home is going to sell between $212,949 and $260,271. So you can see that the list price is within that range, though it's a little bit lower than the RVM. But what the RVM does, it's a computer model. So all that it can do is assume that the home is in average condition. So it looks at the comparable properties, it looks at MLS information. You know, it's this formula that is super secret and no one will ever know, but it looks at all that information and it assumes that the home is in average condition. The RVM, the computer model, it can't know if this house has been completely remodeled from top to bottom last week and everything's brand new. It can't know if everything's torn out of it. It can't know if the carpets are ruined and need to be replaced. It can't know if you put pink cabinets in the kitchen. So you have to remember that when you're looking at these things, is that this computer model doesn't know if there's any extenuating circumstances on this property. That's what you're there for. That's what the realtor is there for, is to go about those extenuating circumstances and adjust that. And I'll show you in a little while how you can adjust the RVM. So over on the right, you can click on Bigger Map. And down here, you'll see a little section that says Heat Maps. One heat map you can do is a 12-month change in estimated value. So as I mentioned before, RPR is parcel-centric. Every home in the nation, every property in the nation is in RPR, even if it's never been in the MLS. So what RPR also does, in addition to having all the homes in RPR, it's constantly evaluating what these properties are worth. So even if it's not an active listing, even if it's never been an active listing, it's constantly looking at the circumstances surrounding the property and it's evaluating what it could be worth. So what this heat map is showing, in these darker blue areas, in the past 12 months, these areas have gone up. The average estimated home value in these areas has gone up over 20%. And in these darker red areas out over here, this is where the estimated home values have gone down 15 to 20% in the last 12 months. So this is just a really great way to get a quick overview. You can see this property that we're looking at is in a nice area where the prices have been going up. There's some other heat maps that you can do here that you can play with. Flood zones is another one of my favorites to look at. You can see this pink area right over here and a little bit up here. These are just a little bit more high risk of flood zones. Again, really great way, easy way to get an overview of what the area is like. So as we're scrolling down, because this property is active on the market, you can see listing photos. You can also see historical records. So it looks like this property was listed in 2010 and 2009. You can easily compare side by side the current listing to the past listing. This is great to see if you want to narrow down maybe when some remodeling had been done or maybe a bedroom addition. You can always see that. Listing information. Homeowner Fact. So this comes from the county. RPR doesn't create anything. The only thing it creates is that RVM, that Realtor Evaluation model. Everything else is pulled from other sources. So a lot of it comes from the MLS and a lot of it comes from Maricopa County. You'll see down here home facts. Again, public facts coming from the county, listing facts that are coming from the MLS. And then you'll see this third column called Your Changes. This is exactly what it sounds like. These are your changes. They're not going to change it with the public records, as nice as that may be. They're not going to change it in the listing. It's just for your use. However, once you change these once, it's going to stay in there forever. So if you come back and you look at this property again 3 years from now and you don't even remember ever seeing it, you can see all of your changes that, oh, actually it had 3 bedrooms and actually there's only 2 total baths. You can make all of those changes and save it for your use and it will be in there. Over on the right-hand side here, you may notice nearby schools. If we click on one of these, such as the Madison Traditional Academy, it will actually pull out the ranking from greatschools.org, address, phone number, school district, grades served. You can see the ranking 10 out of 10 stars, as well as how that compares to the rest of the area. And you can even see test scores for different grades and different subjects. So really cool, really great, easy way to get a good overview of the home. And anything that we're looking at while we're in the demo, anything that you're looking at on a property can easily be turned into a report and given to your clients. So whether you're looking at this home to make an offer on and they want to know more about the neighborhood, or if it's a seller and you're using it for a listing presentation, all of this information can easily be turned into a report and sent out. So as we scroll down, it'll give you a nice little graph about how the value has changed for this house in the zip code at the county level and at the state level. Price change history if it's active on the MLS. Listing details, all of this information all comes from the listing and will only be here if it's active. As we get down further, you'll see the legal description of the location and mortgage records. So one great thing about RPR is that it has all this mortgage record in here. Think about if this was a short sale, how great it would be to know exactly how much was taken out and on what date and with what bank all those mortgages are held. And you have tax info as well. So if you look down here on the bottom right-hand side, you'll notice this live chat button. I mentioned earlier that RPR is 100% owned by the National Association of Realtors, which means they understand the realtor business and they understand that you guys don't work 9 to 5 Monday through Friday Eastern time. So this live chat is actually available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call in or you can actually hit the live chat button. All right, any questions so far? Go ahead and just type into that box if you're having any questions. All right. So I'm going to go over to the History tab. So what this top graph does is it actually just shows a history of the property. This dashed line is the Realtor Evaluation model, the RVM. As I mentioned, RPR is constantly evaluating these properties. So this dashed line is just as the market's been changing, as things have been coming on and off the market, RPR has been evaluating the property, and this is how it's been changing. You'll see other things like financing activity, listing activity, assessed value. You can see all that information there. Scrolling down, you can also see prior sales transactions. You can see them according to the public records and also according to the MLS records. And you'll notice this is kind of a newer feature that you'll see notes and a checkbox that says include in my reports. So when you're wanting to add certain notes or explain why something looks different or explain maybe what a particular term means, you can add all those notes in there. And if you want those to print out in the reports that I'll show you in a little while, you can just check that box. And then when you run your report for your client, they'll be able to see all of that information. Tax assessment info, and you can go historically back quite a ways to see if the tax assessment value has been changing. Unfortunately, it won't show you if the taxes have been paid yet, but it will give you a nice little overview of what the taxes are. All right, and then down here again, mortgage records, mortgage information, and if there's any distress info, you will see that as well. All right, so going over to charts and graphs. So what this tab will show you is the charts and graphs of this property from a macro level down to a micro level. So this first one is the median estimated home value versus the median list price. If you ever have any questions about where this data comes from, over on the left here, you'll see that link that says about this data, and you can see where it comes from. This one comes from LPS. Median sales price versus sales volume, median listing price versus listing volume, listing inventory, inventory of distressed property. And when you get down further, you'll notice the yellow section, which is this house, and then the dark blue, almost black, which is the comps. So this is showing this house as it compares to the comparable properties used to calculate the valuation, and then as it compares to the zip code. So you can see median sales price by square footage, price per square foot of homes sold, price per bedroom of homes sold, price range of homes sold, age range of homes sold. Just a great overview. So I'm going to go back to the summary tab. So as I mentioned earlier, RPR the only thing that RPR creates is the RVM, this Realtor Evaluation model right here. So RPR can only assume average, that this home is in average condition. So there are two ways, if you think this RVM is a little off and needs to be adjusted based on extenuating circumstances, there's two ways that you can do that. The first way is by clicking this button right here that says Refine. And what refine means is basically, I think that the RVM is very close, but there's some special things about this house that the computer can't know about that would change the price. So there's three ways that you can refine the RVM. The first is by adjusting the basic facts. So you'll see bedrooms, bathrooms, rooms, sizes, all of that. So if you want to put in that this home has 4 bedrooms and hit Apply Changes, you could change the area, the living area, and hit Apply Changes, and you'll see right down here how it changes the value of that property. So the second way that you can refine the value is based on home improvements. So if you click on the drop down here, you'll see quite a few different selections that you can use for home improvements. All of this information comes from two places, either Henley & Woods, which is a national company that evaluates remodels in different areas and decides how much they increase the value of a property. And the second is from the National Association of Realtors. So I'm going to do an upscale bathroom remodel, and it gives you a description here of what it means by that. And I'm going to say it was completed in February of 2012, and it cost $9,000, and hit Add. So you'll see down here, it increased the value of that home $4,959, even though I put in for the total cost $9,000. So no matter what HGTV tells us, a $9,000 bathroom remodel does not increase the value of the property $9,000. So this value, again, comes from Henley & Woods, or the National Association of Realtors. It's usually on a region level. Sometimes it's even down to the zip code level. I actually do the same thing, a bathroom model, February 2012, $9,000 over in Scottsdale, and it actually increases at about $5,100. So on a zip code level, they have data and they have statistics that will show you how certain remodels affect the value of the property. So sometimes you may not agree with what the statistics show of what that remodel should increase the value of the property as. So there's a way to kind of take a little shortcut. If you scroll down to the very bottom, you can hit Other. You'll still have to put in the date that it was completed and describe it. But then if you wanted to increase the value of the home exactly $5,400, using that Other will add that exact value that you put in. So that's a nice little way to cheat it if you're looking to put an exact value in there. So the third way that you can adjust the value of the home from the Refine RVM tab is through market and home conditions. So you need to remember as you're going through these sliders that this is how the subject property compares to the comparable properties. So if this property is in a neighborhood where all of the comparable properties back up to the same golf course, no matter how great that view of that golf course is, in a computer model's eyes, it's the same. It's average because it's the same view that all the other comps have. So when you're going through this, you really need to think, no matter how great the view is, no matter how great the exterior is, you need to look at the comparable properties and see how it relates to the comparables. So we think that the exterior is a little bit better, the interior is a little worse, the lot size is a lot better, a view is a lot worse, privacy is a little bit better. You can kind of see as you're moving these sliders, you can see down here where it actually shows you how it's adjusting the value of the property. And so combined everything that we did here, and over on the top right you'll see the original RVM, your refined changes, and now the refined estimate. So let's go back to the Summary tab. I mentioned that there were two ways to adjust the RVM. One was to refine the value. The other is if you think that the RVM is way off and you need to just completely find new comps. And then in that case, you would hit Create, and you're actually going to build your own comp analysis. So it'll show your subject property. The first thing you need to do is confirm the facts. And then you'll click Find Comps. And so you'll notice these two radio boxes. You can add an MLS number or address if you already know your comps, or you can use RPR to search for comps. So I did search. If you see this blue star when you're searching, this means that this property was already used in the RVM. So you can go through and just add as many comps as you want. You should probably be a little more scientific about it than I'm being right now. So then once you get your comps in there, it'll show you the average of the comps, but then you're going to want to go in and adjust these comps. So what you can do, you'll see this slider again. RPR has some fun sliders in it. So you'll see this slider that's asking, how does this property compare to the subject property? It already takes into account the things that computer models can see, which is numbers. It already takes into account the number of bedrooms, the number of bathrooms, the living area, the lot size, garages. It takes into account all of those things. What it can't take into account is just the condition of the property, how it's different from just average. So if this property is in a little bit better condition, you can do that. If this property is in a little bit worse, you can adjust that. If this property really is way off and shouldn't have been used, you can hit Remove. And you can just hit Next and go through and adjust all of these properties. And you can also reorder them and weight them differently. So if this is the exact same floor plan, that can be first. And so once you're done with that, you're just going to hit Update Valuation and close. And you'll see now your new result of the comp analysis. Again, please be a little more scientific than what I just did, but that was just to give you an overview of how you can do a comp analysis. So on almost every page of RPR, at the top here, you'll see a button that says Get a Report. And this is the report screen where you can get a report for any of these properties or even neighborhoods. So you'll see 5 different kinds of reports: property report, seller's report, market activity report, mini property report, and neighborhood report. Property report and seller's report are pretty similar. Seller's report has a little bit more information about the overall neighborhood. But what you're always going to want to do is hit More Details. And this will show you all the things that are included into the report. So let's say that you refine the value of this home and you don't want the seller to know what the original RVM is because maybe their pink cabinets brought the value of their home down a little bit, so you need to adjust that. You can easily take out the estimated value, how you changed it, and just show the refined estimate. And you're also probably going to want to take out the comps and adjustments if you adjusted that quite a bit. So you can choose, and you can always, right here, look at exactly what this is going to look like. So you can decide which information you want your seller or buyer to see. And again, there's this new checkbox here that says Include Notes. So if you made notes as you were going through adjusting the property information, you can adjust that as well. So you can send it right off to your recipient if you would like, or you can hit Display Now to download it as a PDF. I recommend downloading it as a PDF, then you can add a more personal touch to it when you're sending it off. And then you just hit Get a Report. And usually it's no more than 5 minutes that it takes to generate your report. So you'll notice over on the right-hand side, this yellow means that this report is still pending. So it's got about a minute left. These other reports are ones that I have already run. I can always click on it just to re-download the report or view the report. Now reports stay over here for 30 days. That's just because after 30 days, RPR decided it needs to clean up its servers and get rid of some of those old reports you're probably not using, and it just clears them out. So please remember, if there's a report that you're going to use over and over again, such as a neighborhood report, if you want to update some of your past clients on what's going on in their neighborhood, you'll want to run those reports every 30 days. That way you only have to create the report how you want it once, and then all you have to do is click on this plus, click on rerun, and then download the report again. So this just gives a little bit of information about what the home looks like. You're going to want to make sure you fill out your profile and you put your picture and any other information on it. That way it'll be customized to you. So they look really nice. You'll also notice they don't have page numbers. So that way if you want to take out any of this information or add in any of your own information, you can easily do that when you're doing your listing presentation or another presentation for your clients. All right, any questions so far? Oh, and look, our report is done. All right, so I'm back to the home page of RPR. And I am actually just going to pull up a map here of Scottsdale to show you some of the cool things that you can do with maps. Okay, so here's a map view of Scottsdale. Anytime you see a map in RPR, there's some cool things that you can do with it. For example, the polygon that you're all probably used to, that you can do right in Flex. You can draw that custom area out. You can also save it. So if this is an area that you use over and over again, you can save this area and say my favorite area or whatever you want to call it, and you can save it. And now this will always be in there under your quick searches if you ever need to search in one of your favorite areas. Now saved areas and saved searches, they stay in RPR forever until you delete them. So unlike reports, which again expire every 30 days if you don't rerun them, the areas will actually stay in RPR until you delete them. So another unique thing that you can do with any maps in RPR is you can actually do a drive time map. So if I click on drive time and I say that I have clients that need to be within a certain amount of drive time of Fashion Square Mall, I can just drop my pin right on there, and if you just give it a second, it'll pull up the drive time map. This is especially useful if any of you have doctor clients. A lot of times they need to be within a certain amount of drive time distance from the hospital. So this is a really easy way to find it. Just give it a second here while it's pulling up. So you'll see here it'll give you 10, 15, and 20-minute increments of the drive time. Now you'll notice it does take into account freeways versus residential streets. But again, the computer model just assumes average. So it does not take into account traffic and that you only drive at 8 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't know that you drive a Ferrari. It doesn't know that you drive a Prius. So it takes into account the average drive time to this area. And again, same thing with this. You can just click on the 10-minute drive time from Fashion Square if that's something that your clients are very interested in, and hit save, and you can save that search and use it again and again. You can also always do your heat maps. Average sales price is a fun one to do to kind of see where the hot areas are. You can do that on any map that you see in RPR. You can also find distressed properties in RPR. If we click on Advanced Search and say I want distressed properties, Scottsdale, Arizona, and I want single family homes, and click search. Let's go to the list view this time. So you'll notice there are properties that are for sale that have distressed activity. There are also off-market properties with distressed activity. So let's take this one. So here's a distressed property. It'll put all the information up here, current AVM. A cool tool that RPR has is the property analysis for investors. Oops. If you click on that, it will bring up this great tool that you can use to calculate how this property may be for investors. And this is on all properties, not just on distressed properties. On any property, you can pull up this tool. So up on the top under purchase type, you'll notice there's rent, reseller, live-in, and there's also you can adjust the holding period. So depending on what your investor is interested in pursuing, you can adjust and give them different examples for that. So you also have 3 different scenarios: aggressive, moderate, and conservative. So for the aggressive scenario, for example, you could say that you're going to offer $785,000 for this price. And you can guess that the monthly rent is going to be, let's just say, $1,800 a month, and hit save. Oops. And so on your moderate, you may say, okay, this is a more moderate case, so instead of offering $785,000, we're going to say we offered $795,000. And that for rent, we're only getting $1,700. And then over on the conservative, we'll say, okay, we'll offer $829,000, and we're going to get $1,200 rent, and save the scenario. Sorry, I don't know why that's popping up. So you'll notice down on the bottom, it'll give you the different graphs. Right now we have equity and property, pre-tax monthly cash flow, and pre-tax annual cash-on-cash return. Over on the top right under graphs, you can choose which thing you want to use. And what graphs you can use are also determined by the variables that you have in these different scenarios. So I've noticed that all investors kind of have a different variable that they're interested in, or a different metric that they're interested in. So if they actually like cap rate, or if they want loan to value, or if they want the NPV, you can add those different variables, those different metrics in there depending on what language your investors speak. That way they're getting the information that they want rather than, maybe a metric that they don't care about. So you can add as many graphs as you want into here. And then what you can do is you can click on View Spreadsheet, and it'll give you the aggressive, moderate, and conservative scenarios. And then you just copy those over to Excel and send them off to your clients. So what this does is it copies over the values to Excel, but it doesn't copy over the formulas. And that's because being owned by the National Association of Realtors, the NAR really believes that realtors should be in the center of every transaction, that you're needed for that, and you're the expert, and you should know what your clients are thinking. So what that does is anytime your investor wants to make an adjustment, they want to try a different down payment amount or anything like that, they have to come back to you to make those adjustments. You can't just send this link to them. You can't copy it over you can't copy the formulas over to them. It keeps you in the center of the transaction where you belong. So this is the property analysis for investors. Again, I got to that just from a property page by clicking on property analysis for investors. Any questions on that? All right. So I'm going to go back to the Home tab. Okay. And you'll notice at the top here, there's a couple different options of what you can search for. You can search for all properties, for sale properties, neighborhoods, market activity, and my listings. So I'm going to click on neighborhoods. And what I want to do is search for neighborhoods within Scottsdale, Arizona. So not only is RPR great for researching properties and seeing historical information on properties, it's also great for researching neighborhoods. So these are neighborhoods as the county defines them. So really in our case, they're more like subdivisions. You can see within the neighborhoods the median price or the median estimated value of the property, how many homes are for sale, average days on market, how it's been changing. So I'm going to choose 7600 Lincoln. So you can see the median estimated home value here is $705,110, change over the last month and change over the last 12 months. You can see a summary of all of these graphs and how the median estimated home value in this neighborhood has been changing compared to the city and then compared to the county and the state. Median sales price, listing price, population of children and adults by age groups. So one of the coolest things that you can do with the neighborhood is actually on this People tab. So you'll actually see when you go to the People tab, it's looking at this neighborhood, 7600 Lincoln, which is right about Scottsdale and Lincoln Road on the east side of Scottsdale. And it'll give you the population of children by age group, adults by age group, number of households with children, household income brackets, occupational categories, and my favorite, presidential voting patterns. So think about how great of an edge this will give you, especially if you have out-of-town or out-of-state buyers who are looking for a neighborhood that's similar to the neighborhood they live in now back east. This is a really great tool and a really great way that's going to set you apart from the other agents. So if you had a client who lived in North Carolina and they really liked their neighborhood, you could find their neighborhood through RPR, come to this People tab, look at what it's like in their neighborhood. You can go to housing and economy and quality of life and get even more information about what their neighborhood is like, and then find them a similar neighborhood here. You know, I've heard a lot of stories about clients love their home and they love their house, but they have to move right away because they have toddlers and everybody else has 20-year-old children. So it's really important to make sure that you not only find a great home for your clients, but a great neighborhood. So on the quality of life tab, you can also see, you know, even more information, average commute time, how people get to work, and the average monthly temperatures. You might want to just leave out this one, the July one. And again, from any of these, you can click Get a Report. So if you just sold a home in this area, or if you just had buyers who bought a property in this area, you can do a market activity report, which will give a market snapshot about what the market looks like, as well as anything that's come up in the past month, any new listings that have come up or any sold listings that have come up, and send it off to your clients. And so you could rerun this every 30 days and just give this great snapshot to your clients. You could also do the neighborhood report, which gives you just a little bit different information, but it shows you housing stats, people stats, economic and quality of life stats. So this is another great report to give to your clients. All right, so any questions? I'll give you just a couple moments. All right. So RPR also has a commercial side. They're also currently beta testing an appraiser tool, which you'll have access to. Even if you're not a commercial agent, even if you're not an appraiser, as a realtor, you have access to the main side of RPR, which is the residential side. And then right up here, you'll see the Go to RPR Commercial to get access to the commercial side. When the appraiser tool is released to everybody, you'll be able to see that as well, which just goes to show you RPR is really working hard, and the National Association is really working hard to fix some of the problems that have been going on. So having an appraiser tool that appraisers and realtors alike look at will really take off the curtain behind what data goes into appraisals, and I think it'll really be a great benefit. That should be released to everybody before the end of 2013. All right, so now hopefully I've given you enough ideas and gotten you excited enough to use RPR and how you can use it in your business that you're ready to sign up. I may have mentioned RPR is completely 100% free. It's a member benefit from your National Association of Realtors. All you need to do is go to the website. It's NARRPR.com. You just go to that website and click on Create a New Account. You need to know your last name. Hopefully you've got that memorized. And you'll need to know your NERDS number or your NAR ID. If you have any questions about what that is, please feel free to call us. It's on the back of your Realtor magazine or on your membership card. So I mentioned at the beginning of the class, we understand that you don't work 24/7, 365, but there is a 24/7, 365 live chat at the bottom of every page. So if you're at 2 in the morning, that's when you do your work, you're getting ready for a listing presentation and you run into a problem, you can use that live chat or the 1877 number. You can also reach out to me. I'm Amanda Sue. I'm the Director of Technology here at SAAR. I do not work 24/7, 365, but you can always email me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. We also have a new area of our website called Realtech. This is the URL, just saaronline.com/realtech. It's pretty cool. It gives you a lot of great tips and tricks on how to use not just RPR. It has Flex tricks in there, Evernote, Dropbox, different technology tips and trick videos. And on that webpage, saaronline.com/realtech, that is also where this webinar that I've been recording is going to be posted. So if you missed some things or you want to go back and review it, it will be posted on saaronline.com/realtech. If you're mobile, which I know a lot of you are, the reports that you pull in RPR are PDFs, so you can really easily view them on your mobile devices. You can also access the RPR platform is web-friendly, so you can access it from your smartphone or from your tablet. Your smartphone will give you a little bit scaled down version. If you go to m.narrpr.com, it'll give you a scaled down version of it, access to what you need when you're on the go, and then the full version is available on the iPad. So again, to get started, narrpr.com to sign up. It's completely free. It's not a freemium. You're never going to have to pay an upgrade charge. It's completely free. $17 of your dues goes towards it. You need to know your NERDS number. If you don't know it, please call us. And if you need help, there is my email address. So I had just a couple of questions. Again, yes, this webinar was being recorded, and it will be made available on the SAAR website. Under Your Benefits, just click on Realtech. And RPR is completely mobile friendly, so even if you don't have an iPhone or an iPad, any smartphone that has access to a web browser, it will work on. All right, any other questions? All right, I'm going to